Hey, buddy. How you doing?
Big week, man.
Huge week.
I'm still flying high from us seeing Dune 2 a couple days ago and get the Oscars on Sunday. So just a great week, man. Great week.
It really is. We've been talking about doing a podcast for the Oscars since we started doing podcasts. So here we are. Oscars on Sunday night. Jimmy Kimmel's hosting.
Yes.
Some pretty big movies, I think. Some big performances, big actors and actresses nominated for some things. I think it's going to be probably like a highly rated Oscars compared to what we've seen in the past couple of years. So I'm really excited about it. You're obviously excited.
Yeah, I can't wait for the Oscars. I always love the Oscars. I love the prestige of it. I love just famous people being in one room together. You know, people in this industry work their entire lives to get to this moment, and you really can see it in the acceptance speeches. And obviously the big awards are awesome, but throughout the night it's like the smaller awards, the genuineness that comes from these people, and they're just so happy. It's just always great to see. There's so much history behind the Oscars. It's a fun night with Jimmy Kimmel hosting. It makes it seem like a big event. I can't wait for it. So
yeah, when someone wins an award, you're really looking at a top 3 moment in their life,
yeah.
probably, maybe top 5 moment. So you really can see a lot of that emotion come through. People are working their whole careers for this. The culmination of years of work in some cases, and hundreds of people, if not thousands of people sometimes, to win some of these bigger awards. So very cool. Excited about Jimmy Kimmel. I think it's his 4th time hosting.
I think so. Yeah, he had obviously the famous, Will Smith thing. Was that last year? I think it was 2 years ago, right?
No,
yeah, 2 years ago.
It was 2 years ago, but he also was hosting on the Warren Beatty thing as well, if I remember correctly.
Which was La La Land, and I forget the other one that was involved, but that was a big thing too. Yeah.
Yeah. But, so I think it's his 4th time. Like, he's one of those guys now. He's Billy Crystals and whoever, Johnny Carson. Like, he's on that list. He's not a one and done kind of host anymore. So he's probably the guy that's most like that at this point, right? There's no one else that's in that rotation quite like he is.
Absolutely. And this was just a big year for movies. You know what I mean? We kind of fully back from the pandemic. We had Barbenheimer, which was a cultural event of the summer that everyone will remember 2023 really for probably 2 things: Taylor Swift Eras Tour and Barbenheimer. And those were 2 huge moments. And I just remember the buzz in July of people going to the movies, dressing, girls and guys dressing up as Barbie and Ken. And then obviously Oppenheimer being the juggernaut that it was. We haven't had a big movie like that in a while. So it was a great year.
There was actually nothing like the Barbenheimer weekend.
Exactly.
Ever, I don't believe. That was 2 huge movies the same weekend. We went, took the girls dressed up like Barbie, which is fun. You would see videos of people dressing up like Oppenheimer, which is kind of funny, which I don't think people would have done that if it wasn't for the fact that people were dressing up like Barbie or Ken.
Exactly.
But it contributed to the hype for both of those movies.
Because theaters were like, everyone was saying theaters are dead, and there are movie theaters closing all across the country. So it just kind of felt like, movies are back. Yeah, the year before was Top Gun Maverick, which was a huge box office movie, but it didn't have like the Oscar conversation around it like those 2 movies did. So that was great. And then if you look at the other movies in the list, there's some solid movies, solid directors that kind of were in it this year. So yeah, I'm happy. I'm happy. I did actually get to see a majority of the movies, which I normally don't get to do. So I'm glad.
Same.
And can actually form an opinion about what I think were some of the best. So
yeah, you're going to be carrying the pod on that front. I've seen a handful of these movies, obviously know a lot of the actors and actresses that are involved. So ready to chat all about it, but I'm interested in your opinions on things. I think there's some heavy favorites in these categories, but we'll get to all that stuff. We'll break it down. So plan would be for us to just run through the 6 key categories, which are the actor, actress awards, supporting and lead, the best director, and then best picture. So why don't we jump into things? That work, pal?
I love it. Yeah, you bring up the first award,
so
and
I'm just going to bring up the first award and go over the nominees, and then we'll just go from there. So best actress in a supporting role: Emily Blunt in Oppenheimer, Danielle Brooks in The Color Purple, America Ferrera in Barbie, Jodie Foster in Nyad. Am I pronouncing that correctly?
Yeah, Nyad. Yep.
And then Davine Joy Randolph in The Holdovers. So
so I've only seen 3 of the 5: Oppenheimer, Barbie, and The Holdovers. So I've not seen The Color Purple or Nyad. Heard good things. Emily Blunt, I thought was awesome in Oppenheimer, how she played that kind of drunk wife, and she had to carry, a lot of the emotional baggage of the movie
Mhm.
because being married to him probably wasn't the easiest, but she had her own demons. America Ferrera gave the speech of the year
Yeah, it was.
in Barbie about what it's
Mhm,
like growing up as a girl and a woman.
mhm,
I know resonated with your girls, and we talked about that when we reviewed Barbie
mhm,
and stuff. And she has had an amazing career. But I think who the winner is going to be, and I have seen the holdovers and I've talked about it, is Divine Joy Randolph, who the holdovers. Again, it's kind of getting a lot of steam now. People
mhm.
have seen it. I don't know if it's streaming, but she plays the
Streaming on
Catholic.
Hulu, I believe.
It is on Hulu right now. It's a
Yeah.
great. It's actually a feel good movie. It was kind of a Christmas winter kind of elements to the movie, but she plays basically a woman who's in charge of the cafeteria at this boarding school, and her son who went to this boarding school and left to go to Vietnam. I'm not spoiling anything, but this is kind of the beginning of the movie. But he ends up dying in Vietnam, and he was
Yep.
a up and coming star and a great student, and she's dealing with that emotion, and she there are some moments in that movie where she's incredible and she's the
Yep.
heavy favorite to win. I think she's going to win. So my money is on
Did she
her.
win the Golden Globes, SAG? Oh,
She's yes, yeah, she's kind of sweeping. That's the thing with the Oscars, there always are maybe some surprises that happen,
mhm.
but this is the culmination of award season. So there's
Yeah.
been, what, 7, 8, 9 different award shows over the last 2 months leading to today. So you
Mhm.
see a pattern,
Yep.
and she's the favorite to win. I think she's gonna win,
Mhm.
and very well deserving. So my money's on her.
So I have not seen the holdovers yet. I think I went to watch it with Tara one night in I think December, early January, and it was actually not available on Hulu yet. But I knew it
Yep.
was coming on the next day, and
Yep.
we oh, we'll watch it tomorrow. And then you know how life is. Here we are, 2 months later,
Yeah.
and haven't watched it yet. But I do think what you're saying and what I've read about it in the weeks leading up to the Oscars makes me want to watch that as like the next movie that we watch. So as far as a couple other things in the category, Emily Blunt is a big name actress and she was good in Oppenheimer, but she's forgettable for me when you think about the overall cast. Like, I mean, she had a
Yeah.
role. I mean, obviously remember her, but it's not like I walked away and said like Emily Blunt was like the top 5 most amazing things. So I think her name has some cachet, and it's nice to throw her in there. But it sounds like Divine Joy Randolph is head and shoulders above everyone else.
Absolutely. I
So
think so too. So that's my opinion for her. So yeah.
okay, well then we'll just keep it moving. I'll look
Yeah, let's
forward to
keep it
seeing
going.
that
Next
part.
one.
Best actor in a supporting role. So here are the nominees: Sterling K. Brown in American Fiction, Robert De Niro in Killers of the Flower Moon, Robert Downey Jr. in Oppenheimer, Ryan Gosling in Barbie, and then Mark Ruffalo in Poor Things. So which ones of these have
This
you seen?
a stacked category. I mean, literally all of these names are,
Mhm.
household names. I've seen 4 of the 5. I've not seen American Fiction.
Yeah.
That's an absolute bummer. And
What's American Fiction about?
American Fiction, it's not. I don't think it's on streaming anything yet, but
Mhm.
it's a story about this black author who wants to, done by Jeffrey Wright, who wants to kind of write these books and no one's really resonating with them, so he kind of creates this alter ego to write this book in like black voice and like very
Mhm.
like thuggish and like broken English, and he did it as a joke, and the book ends up becoming an absolute phenomenon, and people think he's like some kind of like black activist, and he's like, this is
Mhm.
not like, this is a joke, a kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it's again, Cord Jefferson's the director, first time director. He was one of the
Yep.
lead writers on The Watchmen, which we talked about. This is next on my list. It's just not available for streaming yet, and just
Yeah.
haven't had a chance to get around to it. But that's him.
Well, you'll have to keep me posted on how that is. As
Mhm.
far as the next 4 guys, obviously other big names as well. I have not seen Poor Things, but again, I've seen Killers of the Flower Moon, Oppenheimer, and Barbie. And I know who I've heard the favorite is, but who do you think the favorite is out of those people?
The favorite, and again, I think kind of hands down, it's going to be Robert Downey Jr. and
Mhm.
very well deserving. And this is kind of one of those things where he's never won before. He's been in Hollywood for a long, long time. He's had his ups and downs. 20
People
years
love him
ago,
though.
People love him. But again, 20 years ago, he was, he's been open about substance abuse problems and kind of hitting rock bottom, thought his career might be over. And then he has the renaissance with, Iron Man and the Marvel movies and stuff.
Hmm.
So he's the lead favorite. And it's one of those things, and this is where maybe the Academy Award will pivot or not, but it's like, is it a lifetime, not a lifetime achievement, but you know what I mean? This is his best chance. Yeah. Is he going to do it? Now, a few years ago, the Oscars also have a reputation of where a few years ago when like Sylvester Stallone was nominated for Creed, he was a favorite in like similar situation, and he did not end up winning.
So he won the Golden Globe that year, right?
He won the Golden Globe.
Some of the awards leading up to it. So you thought it was kind of not a lock, but it seemed very likely. And then they pivoted. So I guess it could be that type of scenario too, but it definitely seems like Robert Downey Jr. is the heavy favorite.
He's the heavy favorite.
And he was awesome in that movie. He really was
so good in that movie. But just so that's who I think is going to win, and I hope he wins, and he's going to give an awesome speech, and it's going to be funny, and it's going to be heartfelt, and you look at him, and he's Tony Stark. So in my eyes, he's got that confidence.
Absolutely, Tony Stark.
That confident.
The fact that he's nominated and a heavy favorite, he's the type of person that I feel like draws eyeballs to the Oscars.
100%.
Like I would love to see his acceptance speech, and I probably will watch just because of all these movies that I've seen a lot of them too. So, but if he won and he went on stage and crushed an acceptance speech, that would be best case scenario for the Oscars.
So I completely agree.
A few other people though. Yeah, I did really like Robert De Niro's performance in Killers of the Flower Moon. Like just freaking guy, he's obviously a great actor. I was looking at some stats, and it says Robert De Niro set a record for the longest span between his first and most recent Oscar nominations, 49 years. Dude, the guy's been insane. A staple of good movies forever. He's an amazing actor. I think I told you when we talked about it in the podcast last month that I did get some Meet the Parents vibes from him with some of the looks that he was giving in that movie. But I thought he had a great performance. So, I wouldn't be surprised if he won too.
Absolutely insane. I don't think, it's awesome that he's nominated. I don't think he has a chance because of, he's just won, he has a few Oscars under his belt, and unbelievable performance by him. 80 years old, still bringing the heat. Gosling, my man, he is, Ryan Gosling is just one of those guys. I look at him, he's like all the girls want him, all the guys want to be him.
Yeah.
He's performing at the Oscars. I don't know if you know that. He's performing.
I did not know that.
He is performing I'm Just Ken live at the Oscars. The guy is so damn talented, and the humor he brought to that movie he was so great in that movie. So
he was awesome in Barbie. Yeah. I gotta tell you, going into Barbie, I did not know what to expect. I knew the girls wanted to see it, and I was actually kind of blown away in the movie. I thought it was very good in just the way it was. And I thought he was a big reason why. His performance was pretty awesome. So it's interesting to see him get recognized for a supporting role nomination. Barbie doesn't seem like one of those type of movies that would get recognized in that way. Obviously has a bunch of nominations throughout. So, it just speaks to how good of a job he did in that movie.
But I don't know if when Oscar nominations were announced, Margot Robbie got snubbed, Greta Gerwig got snubbed, and he wrote this amazing post about like how he's honored to that he got nominated, but really defended his coworkers, and this movie did a great job on that. So he's the man. But if I can take 1 minute about Mark Ruffalo on Poor Things, which we watched,
please do, because I haven't seen that. You told me about it, so
it's on Hulu. Mark Ruffalo. Emma Stone, we'll get to her, just is incredible in this movie. But man, I was enthralled with Mark Ruffalo's performance. He is so freaking funny in this movie, in the character that he plays. So it's funny that you look at this list of 5 people, and there's 2 Avengers on there for nominees, with Mark Ruffalo and Robert Downey Jr. So if I were to rank them, I'd go Downey 1, Ruffalo 2, and Gosling 3, and I think Downey's going to win. But any 3 of those win, I would be ecstatic. And Mark Ruffalo deserves to be nominated, so it's pretty awesome.
Has he won an Oscar before?
No, he's never won an Oscar. I don't know if he was nominated for Spotlight. It's the only other critically acclaimed movie that he was in that I could, but I don't know. I know he hasn't won.
But he's a good actor. He's in good movies. He's obviously in big movies and small movies. He's a good actor. At some point he'll get his, if it isn't now.
Absolutely. So yeah, so that's that.
Okay, let's move on to lead actress or best actress in a leading role, I should say. So nominations are Annette Bening in Naiad, Lily
Mhm.
Gladstone in Killers of the Flower Moon, Sandra Huller in Anatomy of a Fall, Carey Mulligan in Maestro, and Emma Stone in Poor Things. So,
Stacked category. So
and you've
this is
seen
the
3 of these movies,
4.
or have you seen Anatomy of the Fall?
I've seen Anatomy of a Fall too. So
Okay.
I've seen 4 of the 5. I've not seen Naiad, which is on Netflix. And again, with Jodie Foster and Annette Bening, it's about the woman who, I don't know if she swam the English Channel or some swimming accomplishment that
Yep.
she did. Out of the 6 awards, this is the one that I truly think is a toss-up between 2 people.
Yeah, and those 2 people are Lily Gladstone, I believe, Killers of the Flower Moon, and Emma
Correct.
Stone, Poor Things, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Those are the
you
2.
actually raved about Carey Mulligan's performance in Maestro too, but it sounds like she's a step down from those 2.
Yeah, it's because with the Golden Globes kind of is the precursor, and don't forget the Golden Globes breaks their movies into 2 different categories: comedy and musical, and then drama. So Emma Stone won for comedy musical, and Lily Gladstone won for drama. So Sandra Huller in Anatomy of a Fall, she was great in it. I personally did not love the movie. I thought it was very long and boring. Some people freak out about it in some of their favorite movies. It just didn't resonate with me. Carey Mulligan, what she's doing in Maestro, brings so much, and it was such like a not over the top performance, but she was just like it takes place in like the 40s, 50s, 60s, and she just has that big voice and just did a great job. And I loved her in Maestro. Emma Stone in Poor Things, man. I don't know if any other actress now could have pulled off the performance that she did in Poor Things, because it was so unique. Now, do you know anything about Poor Things at all?
I don't.
Okay.
Tell me about it.
So I'll just give you a quick synopsis of it. So it's got like a few main characters, William Dafoe being one of them, Emma Stone, Mark Ruffalo, and another actor. I can't remember his name. But essentially what happens is William Dafoe is this doctor guy. It takes place now 1940s or 1920s or something like that in London. And a woman's body, Emma Stone, she jumped off a bridge at the start of the movie and ends up appearing on a bank, and he gets her, and she's pregnant in the movie. She's like basically dead. So what he does is he takes out the fetus and exchanges the fetus's brain with Emma Stone's brain. Okay. So, and basically reanimates her and brings her back to life. So she's alive with a brain of a fetus. And essentially it's her life, and she's aging so much quicker and learning so much quicker. But the start of the movie is her basically acting as a toddler and learning and fascinated about the world and asking questions and finding herself. And through the movie, she's growing, and by the end of it, she's like an adult and a very intelligent woman.
So that sounds insane.
It does insane. And it is an insane movie.
That description is insane. And it's embarrassing to have a podcast about the Oscars and like not even know that very basic synopsis of the movie. But as insane as that sounds, it obviously must have been well done to have multiple nominations throughout all of these categories. So I mean,
it's so well done. It's filmed unlike any other movie that is in the nominations, or really that you've seen, because it's just so different, and it really is out there and weird. You don't recommend this movie for everybody, but what Emma Stone has to do is just it's so good, both physically and in the dialogue, and she's just incredible. So
she's awesome. She always crushes Saturday Night Live when she's on Saturday Night Live, and I think she's a pretty likable person in Hollywood.
She's so damn likable. So
yeah,
there's her, and then there's Lily Gladstone, who we talked about when we did the Killers of the Flower Moon pod. Completely captivating. How you can't keep her eyes off her when she's on screen, and what she kind of has done in the movie is also incredible. Two completely different performances. So, what are your thoughts? Have you any thoughts about Lily Gladstone? Or
well, not having seen Poor Things, it's hard to compare to that. But Lily Gladstone's performance was awesome. You know, I thought that was an amazing movie, Killers of the Flower Moon. And I think a big part of it is because of her performance. You really felt for her. You really felt for her, like for the Native American people that were being taken advantage of there, and she represented all of it. And she was a big focus of the movie. And I thought she made the movie in large part. So having not seen Poor Things, I would think that she would be a strong front runner. She obviously is. It sounds like it could go either way.
It could go either way, but this is what I think is going to happen. I think Lily
Okay,
Gladstone's
tell
going
me.
to win.
Really?
Emma Stone won in 2017 for La La Land, so she has one
Okay, so then it
Academy.
gets back to like they're keeping track and holding
I,
previous Oscars against you, and maybe you want to give it to
I,
a Native American woman. Maybe would she be the first Native
yeah,
American woman to win an Oscar? So, yeah,
I mean, the Oscar has a history of years ago, not exactly have including minorities and that sort of stuff. So, gun to my head, Lily Gladstone's going to win. I think Emma Stone's performance is even more memorable. But since she's won and she's only like 35, 36, has a long career ahead of her, will probably win other Oscars down the road. I do think
yeah,
this is Lily Gladstone's moment, and that platform for her to win will be an awesome thing. Her speech will be incredible and stuff. So that's where my money is. So
yeah. No, I love it. And it would be well deserved, and I would love to see it. So, if you haven't seen Kills of the Flower Moon, it's only a 3-hour movie, and you have
three and a
48
half.
hours to watch it before the Oscars. So, let's go.
Exactly. So there, boom.
Love it.
Cruising right through.
Okay, Best Actor in a Leading Role. Nominations are Bradley Cooper from Maestro, Coleman Domingo from Rustin, Paul Giamatti from The Holdovers, Cillian Murphy from Oppenheimer, and Jeffrey Wright from American Fiction. So, first thought, have you seen Rustin? I actually
I
don't
have
even know what that
not
is.
seen. I have not seen Rustin, and this guy, he's been getting a lot of like. Well, he's like that guy right now. I've seen him
Yeah.
in a lot of different things, but I have not seen Rustin. I honestly, I don't even know what it's streaming, and
Yeah.
I don't know much about that movie. And
So honestly, even to be nominated is a good thing for someone. So maybe it's one of those things where it's good that he's nominated, but he's not really in the conversation for who could win. You love
absolutely.
Bradley Cooper's performance in Maestro.
I loved Bradley Cooper's performance in Maestro. I just love Bradley Cooper. He's not gonna win, but I love.
I didn't think he was one of those
Yeah,
heavy favorite guys, but I know you did love his
I
performance.
loved him.
Wouldn't he trade for like 5 years to do that?
That one damn scene of him conducting in the church where he literally watched this performance over and over again was so good. And again, another guy he was nominated. I don't know if he was for American Hustle. He's been nominated, for a few things. I don't think he was nominated in Star Is Born, but he's gonna get his. He will get his eventually.
Absolutely, he's a great actor.
Yeah,
I think of Bradley Cooper as like an A-lister kind of
yeah.
hack. So at some point, and that brings us to Paul Giamatti, Cillian Murphy, Jeffrey Wright, all very good actors. My understanding is that Cillian Murphy is the favorite to win.
Cillian Murphy, yes, he's going. Yeah,
it.
it's all no, it's Irish. It doesn't matter. Cillian Murphy is the lead favorite to win, and he's going to win. Jeffrey Wright, I've not seen American Fiction yet, but you love Jeffrey Wright, Westworld guy,
Batman. He's just in stuff,
Great career and awesome. He again, hopefully, will get nominated again down the road, but good for him for this movie. The two-man race is between Paul Giamatti and Cillian Murphy. Cillian Murphy's going to win. His Giamatti in Holdovers was so good, and that guy, again, is a likable guy. I think when he won the Golden Globe, there's that viral video of him like eating a burger at like Five Guys with the Golden Globe like statue like right there afterwards. You know what I mean? He's so good. He
was incredible in Oppenheimer. So I feel bad that I'm not able to compare his performance to Paul Giamatti's. Like Paul Giamatti, long time
Cinderella
TV
Man
movie guy,
you know what I mean?
But like, Cillian Murphy was incredible. Like to me, he is Oppenheimer. Like I have no idea. I mean, I've seen pictures of Oppenheimer, but like I can only picture him. Like it seems like it's a career-defining role for him, and he crushed that movie. Carried the whole
100%.
Wasn't he in every scene of that movie? Or like most? I feel like he was in like a very high percentage. I read about of that movie, which makes sense for the lead actor. But he was on screen a lot. He did a great job.
Incredible. I mean, and again, not like kind of like the Oscar trope is like actors that kind of go through a physical transformation. You know what I mean? They love to like award people that do that. And I mean, Cillian Murphy, who's not a big guy to begin with, I think lost like 20 or 30 pounds for the role of Oppenheimer because he's so skinny and his face is so drawn back. And what he does with his eyes and his dialogue, this is his moment. He has been a supporting guy his entire career, leading into like Peaky Blinders, obviously all the Batman stuff and Inception and other Christopher Nolan type movies. And there's this great story of Christopher Nolan on day one of filming of Oppenheimer, where he left a note for Cillian Murphy and is like, this is now like, congratulations, you finally have your movie or something along those lines as a leading man. And everything you read about him, he's going to win and he deserves it. So awesome.
Yeah, he's awesome. All right, so best director.
Yeah.
I'm going to butcher some of these names.
No, these will be a fast one.
All right, Justine Triet from Anatomy of a Fall.
Yep.
Martin Scorsese, Killers of the Flower Moon. Christopher Nolan, Oppenheimer. Yorgos Lanthimos from Poor Things.
Yep.
And then Jonathan Glazer from The Zone of Interest. So, first thing, Zone of Interest. What's your awareness of that?
It is very much on my radar. It is basically, so the same woman who's nominated for Best Actress, Sandra Hüller, is also in Zone of Interest. Supposedly an incredible movie that take basically this one house, and I don't know if it's in Poland or whatever, one house that just is on the outskirts of a concentration camp, and how this family, and I think the father that lives there is a soldier, a Nazi soldier, and they're just basically like trying to like redecorate this house and like live a normal life with all this shit that's happening on the other side of the fence and stuff. And an incredible movie. It's not in English, so it's not a subtitle movie, but supposedly how it's filmed is amazing. I have seen the other four.
Yeah, I was looking at this guy's IMDb, and there's nothing else that he did that I personally recognize. So, but obviously, nice to be nominated. You have seen the other ones. It seems like and we've talked about the other ones at this point. It seems like Christopher Nolan is the heavy favorite to win this category as well.
I don't want to, and because I know we're kind of talking here a lot, but this one's is like the biggest shoe-in. Like Christopher Nolan is going
the shoe-in of all shoe-ins.
The shoe-in of all shoe-ins. He is going to win Oppenheimer.
I mean, could potentially be a Lifetime Achievement Award. I mean, the guy's the best director at this point. He's one of those guys, at least for us, that if Christopher Nolan has a movie, we will be there within the first few days of that movie coming out. I mean, I've seen them all in the theaters. They're all freaking incredible. And this seems like his masterpiece. And they've all been very, very good.
100%. You know what's just so funny, real quick, and maybe it'd be a good segue coming up, but like Dune 2 was supposed to come out in November of last year, which would have made it eligible for the Oscar season this year. And Denis Villeneuve, which I've now learned how to really say his name, and Christopher Nolan are neck and neck for me.
Those are the two guys.
Those are the two guys. And they're great friends and know each other well and always are very supportive of each other. But as far as how movies are filmed, Oppenheimer and Dune 2 are like leagues above everyone else. And those are the two guys right now. So
those guys are like true visionaries of what they do in movies. It's pretty amazing. So I'd love to see him win, and I'm glad to hear he's the heavy favorite.
And for Anatomy of Fall, Justine, she's gonna win earlier in the night for like best screenplay. She's gonna win. She was involved in that whole movie, so she'll win something. And then Scorsese, guy's 81 and still being nominated for best director is just an achievement himself.
So Martin Scorsese has the most best director nominations for a living person. This is his 10th nomination. So
and he only has one win.
With what?
With The Departed.
The Departed,
because he got, that was the one again where he didn't win for Goodfellas, didn't win for Taxi Driver, other movies where like you look back and you're like, how did he not win? And he ended up winning for The Departed. And then so Yorgos, he's Poor Things again, another like unbelievably visual movie, but he'll be around for a long time because he has a very distinct look in his films. But this is Nolan's time. So
I mean, honestly, this is Oppenheimer's year.
It's going to be, which will lead to the final category that we'll talk about.
All right. So Best Picture. I love it that they have 10 nominations on that. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think that it's been a good thing to include more movies?
It's only good for it's only good for the Oscars and the audience because this is one minus, Ryan Gosling, where like Barbie is nominated. You know what I mean? Like, yes, I think 10 is a great, it's good because they have a chance like last year, where Top Gun was nominated for best, it's just a chance to get some other movies in there.
So
and stuff.
I was listening to Matt Bellamy, who hosts The Town. He was on the Bill Simmons podcast the other day. I don't know if you listened to it, but he was just talking about how the ratings of the Oscars are really at their highest when the movies that are involved in the nominations have been watched by a lot of people, as opposed to just like smaller movies, independent type movies, which seems like what the Oscars have been for the past like 10, 15 years, just much like a more artistic indie type movies where not that many people see them. So that leads to lower ratings. So when you have all these movies thrown in and you include 10 movies in the Best Picture category, it's like, there's more likelihood of people having seen these movies and people being drawn to the award show. It's probably good for viewership overall. And I like it that they have 10 in there. So the movies are American Fiction, Anatomy of a Fall, Barbie, The Holdovers, Killers of the Flower Moon, Maestro, Oppenheimer, Past Lives, which we haven't talked about, at least on this podcast,
Mhm.
Poor Things, and Zone of Interest. So,
Mhm.
I mean, all movies that we've talked about in the past few categories. Again, it's Oppenheimer's year, man.
It's Oppenheimer's year. So real quick, I've seen 8 of the 10. I have
Mhm.
not seen American Fiction or Zone of Interest. They're the only two I have not seen, on my radar, American Fiction specifically. So I cannot speak to them. But real quick, I ranked it from 8 to 1 out of the
Okay.
movies. And I just like to go through real
Hit me with
quick.
your list.
So my 8 to 1. This is my from 8th to 1st. And this shows 1 through 7 are like movies that I loved and like really thought were
Mhm.
great.
Mhm.
8, I said, is Anatomy of the Fall, which just
Mhm.
didn't hit me. It's a courtroom movie in a different language for a majority of the movie. It just didn't hit me. So that's my number 8.
Oh,
Number
yep.
7, Killers of a Flower Moon. Believe it or
Well,
not.
okay.
I know. That's my number
I
7.
actually don't believe that. I am personally surprised by that. So, okay.
I'm sure.
But good to know. That speaks to the quality of
Yeah,
the other movies more than Killers of the Flower Moon. All right, what was your next one?
6, Maestro. I really liked Maestro, and I love Bradley Cooper's performance in it and their story between him and Carey Mulligan. 5, Barbie. Again, just an unique movie. I do think the movie had some problems with the Mattel stuff, didn't quite hit, but the other things were really positive and how it was filmed.
But even then, you still put it ahead of Maestro.
I know. Yeah, I did, just because I thought, again, because it was just a fun movie. It's such a different, I was smiling throughout the whole thing. You know what I mean? It's
I did not know Will Ferrell was in that movie.
Yeah,
so
me neither.
And that's probably like obvious to a lot of people, but for me, that was a very pleasant surprise when he was in that movie, and it was just a much better movie than I was expecting going into it.
Yeah.
So, anyways, that's your 5th best one. What's 4?
The Holdovers, which again mentioned, thought it's a fun, feel good movie. I really liked it. 3 is Poor Things, which we saw last weekend. I spoke about. 2, I'm sticking with it, and I don't care what anyone says. Past Lives is my number 2. I just love that movie.
Me and Tara we watched the trailer for it, and we're probably going to watch it at some point. We have been talking about it. It's very interesting to me that this movie's nominated for Best Picture,
I know,
but you don't see it in any of those other big 5 categories. Anyway.
I was so bummed that the lead actress she didn't get nominated for it because she was just incredible in it. But I really love this movie, and it was my second favorite movie that I saw, close with Poor Things, 1 and 2 there, and then 1 is Oppenheimer, and they're going to win, and it's Oppenheimer's year, and that's that. So
I can't wait to see it. I think the ratings are going to be high for this, just because of all the actors, actresses, and then the fact that Oppenheimer's the heavy favorite and all these things. Like, I want to see all of these people get up on stage, and just giving their acceptance speeches and all the hoopla that goes along with the Oscars. So I can't wait to see it.
Awesome. Yeah, it'll be a fun night. They'll be announcing this award at 11:50 p.m. on East Coast time. But that's what I think how it'll go. So that's that.
Have to go back. No. What'd you say?
I said, yeah, that's Oscar. That's the Oscars talk. What I think will happen.
I want to share a stat that I saw. You have to go back to Ben Affleck's Argo to find a Best Picture winner that's grossed more than $100 million domestically, which I thought was pretty interesting. So 12 years since the Best Picture movie is nominated, the Best Picture winner has made over $100 million. And you can actually see it. Like, I'm looking at a chart of the ratings. It's almost like somewhere in like the upper 30s to 40 million people watched it every single year up until about 2014. And then it was a steady decline. 2021, 2022 don't really count, but like last year there was 18 million people that watched it. And I'd expect with the list of nominations that we have here that this is probably a big return in terms of viewership, hopefully back into the 20s, and get some positive momentum around the Oscars moving forward.
I think so. With Kimmel hosting, and a lot of people have seen the movies that are nominated, I think people will be watching. That's a crazy stat, So good for them. So,
well, listen, I am anxious to see how your predictions perform on Sunday night, so we'll be sure to revisit that. But love it, can't wait. We'll talk more about it next pod too.
Awesome, sounds good. And now, again, into the 2024 Best Picture winner, Dune 2 conversation. Now, let's dive on in.
So we'll definitely dive in. We're gonna bypass what we normally do, where we talk about 4 or 5 different things that we watched, and do kind of like a bigger focus on Dune 2, a movie that we really were looking forward to. Again, it was supposed to release last fall, released this past week. We went to see it in the theater together down in Portsmouth. So we're going to spend the next whatever amount of time talking about that, maybe touch on some things that we're watching and haven't finished yet, but that's the plan. So if you haven't seen Dune 2, You might want to watch it before you visit this part of the podcast because we are going to spoil things. Sound good, pal? You ready to go?
I'm ready to go. Been ready since the second you and I walked out of the movie theater
Dude.
the other day. So
So sometimes when I walk out of movie theaters, I'm unsure on how to feel on a movie. I loved it. Like getting out of our seat, walking out, I was like, wow, that was freaking incredible. And it's fairly rare that I feel like as strongly about a movie as I did walking out of that one. You loved it the second we saw it as well.
well, this is why people go to the movies. This is a movie theater. We saw it in down in Newington, and not an IMAX, but the RPX theater. This is where you need to see this movie. Just the sound, the visuals, and like again, this is just shows Denis Villeneuve. Like the scope of this was so big, and I was just enthralled in this universe the entire time. And you just walk
Mhm.
away minus the storyline, minus any questions or flaws, and being like, "Damn it, that was an awesome experience."
It really
And
was.
I think a majority of people that going will get that feeling.
Totally. And honestly, it's making a ton of money. He's getting a ton of great reviews. It's an incredible movie. So I want to revisit Dune 1 at first because
Yeah.
I just want to talk about how I think we might have talked about it in some podcast in the back. I feel like it's up there in some of my top movies. But when Dune 1 came out, like I knew nothing about Dune. Like I had heard of it, but I really knew nothing about it. Like I think I maybe had like this image of a desert planet in my mind. But I saw the preview for it and I just thought it looked freaking incredible. And then we went to go see it. No, we didn't go see it.
You
Did
saw
I
it
see it by
first.
myself?
I saw it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I saw it
because
by
it
myself.
released both in theaters and online at the same time during COVID.
Yeah. I think I might have went to go see it by myself. But anyways, I was freaking blown away by it. Like very surprised. I mean, it looked good, but like I walked away from that being like, wow, that's like one of my favorite like science fiction type movies that I had ever seen before. I watched it multiple times since then. I actually inspired me to read the book, and here we are with Dune 2, and I think it's even better movie and probably one of the better 1-2 punches in terms of a science fiction property that I can remember.
So not many people know this, but the book, which you've read, which I have not read, came out I think in 1965 or something like that. So this, I knew nothing about Dune like you. I didn't know anything about it. I don't know anything about the universe or the houses or what all that kind of stuff. But this book is what inspired George Lucas to write Star Wars. So like this book came, before Star Wars, and in Star Wars, a lot of their themes and that sort of stuff came from that. So you can see the parallel, but now it's like this is back in, and you see the parallels like crazy, So
it makes you, I'll always love Star Wars, but it really does make me look at it a little bit differently.
yes,
It's actually amazing that this came out in 1965.
yeah.
We're talking 60 years ago, and it really was the precursor to Star Wars and a lot of the science fiction movies or properties that I like. And to think that this was one of the things that kicked it all off, it's absolutely freaking incredible. What the type of world that was realized in this. But I do want to talk about the movie a little bit.
Yeah, let's dive in. Again, you go first. I let's talk about the whole movie as a whole, and then I have some I call unanswerable questions that I want to see what you think of it and stuff, because so many damn highlights from this movie.
Yeah. So there's multiple books in the Dune franchise, but the Dune 1 and Dune Part 2, the two movies, are basically like halves of the first book, right? So this one picks up right after the first movie.
Yep.
And like super quick synopsis: Peter Atreides is the main character, played by Timothée Chalamet. His dad was killed, and basically this is his revenge tour leading up to the end of the movie. He joins some people that are native to the planet that Dune takes place in, called Araxis. They're called the Fremen. He joins them. There's prophecies. There's just great action scenes, explosions, and it gets to the point at the end where he gets his revenge, and it kind of sets up a great potential third movie that hopefully they'll do in the years to come. But that's like so surface level. I kind of want to focus on some of the highlights or some things that struck you during the movie. I don't know if that's a fair way to start with you, but are there certain points that you wanted to discuss?
Well, just the thing is Dune, the concept, and it's not like easy to like quite follow. Like it's one of those things where it's kind of like almost like Game of Thronesy, with like there's different houses and names and powers and like all that kind of stuff. But the second because I just rewatched Dune 1 since we watched Dune 2, and the things I was able to pick up on, it's like when it clicks, damn it, does it click? And I am like all in on this universe. And once you have an understanding of the language and where things are, it's like now I'm all in. And I know it's not
Yeah.
for everybody. It isn't for everyone, and some of the content is heavy. But man, it when it clicks, and it
Well,
has.
I mean,
You
it's a
know,
science fiction movie, like
yeah,
that's what it is. I mean, there's planets and languages, and there's all kinds of different things that like you really have to. Yeah, it takes multiple viewings. It takes reading the book. It takes watching like YouTube videos or listening to
yeah,
podcasts to like really understand things. I mean, you get something out of the movie the first time you see it, even if you don't understand all those different things. But when you do understand those things, it takes the movie and it really elevates it and gives you just a different level of appreciation for it.
yeah. And you know what? And kind of maybe it's a good place to start. But this is a movie with movie stars. You know what I mean? The
Mhm.
cast is insane. You know, it's got like the different generations of cast. I mean, starting with Timothy Chalamet. So you read the books, you saw the movie Dune 1 first. I mean, what
Mhm.
do you think of Chalamet as, Paul Atreides?
So it's tough because I did read the book after I watched the first movie, so I can only picture Timothy Chalamet in my
Yep.
head as I'm
Yep.
reading the book, But from what I read and seen in the movies, like I think he's done a great job. He's obviously a smaller guy,
Yeah.
so I could have seen someone that was built a little bit different playing that role, but I think he does a freaking awesome job in the role. And I'm not
Yeah.
like this huge Timothy Chalamet guy, but like I think this is a great role. He does a great job. Peter Atreides will be a defining character in his career when you look back on it when it's all said and done.
Incredible. And like you said, the guy probably weighs like 140 pounds, like soaking wet. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? He's not a big guy. But there are scenes in this movie, he's an incredible yeller. You know what I mean? Like there are times where he snaps back at his mom, or that scene after he drinks the water of life and is talking to the Fremen.
Mhm.
He's scary, like
Yeah.
intimidating, and for him to be able to pull that off with his side, like because he doesn't have that presence, it just shows
Mhm.
what an awesome performance he gave. So you got
Mhm.
something like him, and then you got Zendaya, who's I bought stock in her years ago
But
from
you've always been a big
Euphoria and
Zendaya.
other things, and she like just two like gorgeous, like good looking people who are incredible actors you get to watch on screen for a while, and they just do a great job with that. So it's like you're so
They really
invested,
they really
you
do
know?
a nice job. Like you said, you really like buy into their characters and their performances, the nuances and everything. So like those are two great lead actors and actresses. But besides that, I mean you have my girl Rebecca Ferguson, who's
Oof.
probably she's the girl of the Rehashables.
Yep.
Then you have Josh Brolin, Skarsgård. Who else? Name a bunch of
Florence
people. There's
Pugh. Florence Pugh
Florence Pugh.
who just literally, I mean, is so. How many Halloween costumes do you think this October there's going to be either someone dressed with Florence Pugh, the headwear that she wears in this movie, which is incredible, or the Benny Gesserit? So, I mean,
Oh God.
literally, the costumes and how they look is insane. But Florence Pugh, man, just like she is like stunning in this movie, just
Yeah.
absolutely stunning,
She
and a
really
movie
has a
star,
small role too in it.
very
Like
small.
like with so many people that have these small roles that will be in hopefully the next movie, but she's a big actress as well. Christopher Walken in there
Yeah.
as the Emperor.
Austin Butler. You know what I mean? Who
Yeah.
obviously to Elvis fame a couple years
Mhm.
ago, but as Fade Rotha, who well, I have a few questions about him down the road.
Yep.
But like, those are the four. Between Chalamet, Zendaya, Austin Butler, and Florence Pugh, who are like the up and coming. These are like going to be people in Hollywood for the next 30 years, and they do a great job.
Mhm.
So good to
It's an
see them
amazing
in
cast.
there. Yeah.
The way the movie is shot is, or maybe the cinematography, I should say, it just has a very distinct look. And when you combine it with the way the music is and the sound effects are, it's it really is like a unique movie to see that way. Like and that's part of the reason that you need to see it in IMAX or RPX, where you have the sound and you have the big screen in front of you. Like the visuals are freaking incredible.
The scene of Paul riding the sandworm
Hmm.
is the equivalent of seeing the T-Rex in Jurassic Park in the movie theater for me. Like
Yeah.
that was like a moment, like with the way the music was, the way the sound was, the visuals, the him
Mhm.
trying to get on, and the shot of him on his knees and him standing up and actually riding the sandworm was like goosebumps just talking about it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it was one of those like, how the hell did they do this? You know?
Could have been shot so poorly, and it really could have taken you out of the movie, but like, it was freaking awesome. Like it looked great, you know.
Incredible. And it's such a different landscape. This is all filmed in a desert. This is actually filmed in a desert. This isn't filmed
Mm.
on, obviously the CGI elements and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah,
But this is like a practical filmmaking, which you can tell
yeah,
how it was done.
yeah. The whole movie takes place on a desert planet, so it's just sand everywhere, and whatever you can picture in your mind of a desert planet, like that's what you're looking at, and it's just
Yeah.
it's freaking beautiful to see. Other thoughts?
So I have some questions for you about the movie.
Okay.
Okay, because again, this
Yeah.
is a spoiler movie, so people know about it. I have some questions for you. Maybe you can help me answer them or not. So
Okay.
the Bene Gesserit, all right?
Yep.
Can they choose the sex of the baby?
Yes.
Because they can.
So Jessica,
Paul's mom.
Paul Atreides' mom, was supposed to have a little girl, and she
Yes.
chose to have a boy. So yes, they can choose the sex of the baby.
Okay, because that was something they've been doing for thousands and thousands of years, is
Yeah.
having a girl, because the prophecy was that when a boy comes, he could be the one.
Yeah, and I could be wrong on this, but I believe that Jessica was trying to fulfill the prophecy.
Yes,
and
ahead of
had the boy
schedule.
in purpose.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was one question. Second question for you. Are we sure Fade Rotha was a good fighter? Are we sure? Are we sure he was a good fighter? Because
Well, I mean, he doesn't. No, we're not sure. I mean, but are we sure that Paul Atreides is a good fighter? 'Cause,
exactly, that's the
the
point.
time when I was watching that, I'm like, yeah, I mean, he probably should have been able to overpower Paul, but again, Paul's been training, and
Yeah.
there was that stuff in the first Dune movie where you're supposed to remember that he is a little bit more of a trained fighter. But yeah, no,
Because
you would think he would have.
in the Colosseum, all right, the awesome fight where we're introduced to Fade Rotha, he fights 3 Atreides soldiers or whatever, right?
Mhm.
2 of which are drugged, all right? And the third one is not drugged, but the guy is clearly malnourished, not in the best condition.
It's not like you got a great night's sleep before that.
Exactly. It's not like you had a good protein meal before, but he like struggled with him. So like, are we sure Fade Rotha is a good fighter? Because like, why is he
Yeah.
beating up these pathetic drugged people? So very Commodus Gladiator mind for me.
Positive. That's awesome. Yeah, he's a fraud. That guy sucked.
Yeah.
A
So
little too angry.
yeah. So that was my question, and then equivalent is like, is Paul a good fighter? Because like,
Yeah, I mean, well, it gets back to Timothy Chalamet. Like there was one time where I was like, well, he's probably doing the best of what he can, just like physically, and
Yeah.
they made it look as good as they could. It never looked bad, but
No.
I sometimes think like, dude, this guy's freaking, like you said, 120 pounds, maybe.
Yeah.
To think that he would be able to fight anyone is kind of funny sometimes. But yeah, I know it's not like he's an incredible fighter,
Next
but
question.
he is
for
kind
you.
of supposed to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But again, it was just interesting. I thought that was an interesting aspect. Is the water of life the equivalent to the dark side? Meaning this.
I don't know the answer to that.
Because we're trained through watching movies that Paul Atreides and Timothy Chalamet, he's the hero of this story.
Yep.
After he took the water of life, and after Jessica took the water of life, which is supposed to enhance your visions, and you can see everything in the future, the past, you have this clear plan. They don't seem like good people or good intentions after they take it.
Yeah.
It very
They
much
do seem a little bit off after they do the water of life.
I mean, Paul, after he takes the water of life, I have major Anakin Skywalker vibes of like when he's walking in the room with all the Fremen to give his speech and he's wearing the robe. That is Anakin Skywalker walking into the where the young Jedi are and killing them. And I think they're not the good guys anymore. I don't know. Like, are we rooting for them?
I don't know. I don't know at this point because the next book's called Dune Messiah. I have not read it. I actually probably will read it now that we've seen this. But I don't know where the story goes from here. I know it takes some weird twists and turns, but after they took the water of life, which is a liquid that they pull from like baby sandworms, which
awesome.
If you haven't seen this movie,
so cool.
That was actually a very cool scene.
Yeah,
but that's what it is. And yeah, they're definitely different afterwards.
He was resisting taking it, didn't want to take it, and knew that was the only path. And then, the two equivalents that I was watching this movie was the Matrix. So many Matrix vibes between Javier Bardem's character, my mind being like Morpheus and believing in the one unconditionally and absolutely, to even the scene where basically Paul is dead and the only thing that would bring him to life was Chani, her tears and the water.
Tears of the
Very
Dead, yeah.
Trinity, very
Yeah.
Trinity bringing Neo back to life comparisons.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
That's just like movie making, storytelling over the years. It's
Yeah.
like the girl has, bring Sleeping Beauty back with a kiss or some special thing. Like that's, yeah. I can feel the vibes.
So that and then the other equivalent is Paul all of a sudden turning into Doctor Strange after taking the water life and being
Well, yeah,
like,
I mean, and
seeing
that's a big part of the book.
Yeah.
They don't talk about that as much in the movie. I mean, they do address it at that point in the movie, but like his character in general in the book is someone that can see basically see the future, see like a million paths forward and able to choose the right one. So yeah, you got to keep that in mind. If you read the book, you would kind of look at that under a different lens.
So that one question for unanswerable question. How can Chinese?
I actually have some differences between the book and the movie I want to share with you afterwards. But
okay, yeah, cool. I'll get two more questions for you, and then we'll get to that.
Okay.
How can Chani fly a helicopter? If you're flying a
helicopter,
great
question. That is a great question. I don't necessarily remember that from the book. I was wondering where the hell they got that helicopter from, because that just kind of came out of nowhere. Because they were all heading south, or they were in the south.
They're all heading south.
And the next thing you know, she pulls back, lands a freaking a thopter or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
I do not know the answer to that. But
okay, that's what I was wondering. And last question, you're going to answer this. How do other people get on the back of sandworms when they're getting from one place to another? There was a scene where like Jessica is like in like a little tent, like riding on the back of a sandworm.
There's like 100 people on the back of a sandworm.
Like people like riding like it's a commuter rail to North Station. Like I'm like how hard it was to get on is one thing, but then there's like people like casually
once
sitting
you're on, they just pull it up to the freaking loading dock and everyone just kind of goes onto it. Great question. I actually was reading something about how in the book they don't talk about how people get on and off the sandworms, or even as like an individual. So like they had to devise a way that he gets on the sandworm to basically show that he's able to ride one, and obviously that was not very easy. And then in the movie they do not address what you're talking about. They don't address it in the book either. I don't freaking have any clue, but it is kind of funny. I mean, it's one thing to see that scene where Jessica's sitting in that like tent on top of it and people around her. It's another scene to see everyone going south and the whole freaking like 1,000 people around the back of the thing. That doesn't seem like a fun ride.
No, it seems like a very bumpy ride. Supposedly, I guess when you, I don't know if I heard or read that when you do the hooks or whatever, you could see it was like attached like a flap thing on the sandworm that if you when they lift it up, it allows sand to get into the sandworm, which means the sandworm cannot dive down deep, which is why they can stay on top of the sand and not have the sandworm dive deep.
That was the assumption that I made. And I forget the mechanics of that, if it was in the book or not, but that was kind of my assumption. I think they showed some detail underneath those flaps, and that in my mind, I was like, well, this is why the thing doesn't dive underneath the sand, which makes a ton of sense. But dude, I didn't even like driving in a car with my window down, never mind being on the, or driving fast, I should say, with my window down, never mind being on top of a freaking sandworm in the desert with all that sand in your face.
So funny. So anyway, that's just some questions I had. So what did you want to talk about from the movie?
There was a handful of differences between the book and the movie that I wanted to tell you, just to give you some additional context or just make you think a little bit. I mean, I like the way the movie was done. It's fine. But there are differences between the movie and the book, like there is anytime a movie is done based on a book. So a couple different things. So Aaliyah's role in the book. Aaliyah is the unborn daughter of Jessica, Paul Atreides' mom, in the movie. In the book, she is born. Okay. And she's actually born 4 years before that final battle happens in the book, which is very, a big difference. And I think I told you before, after she took the water of life, she was born and she had all of the memories of all the Bene Gesserit, and she was very smart and she grew faster. So like in the book, she was born and then she was like a full functioning person in the book and a character in the movie, which I expect she'll have a bigger role in the third movie because she's obviously a big time actor or actress, I should say. What's her name again?
Anya Taylor-Joy. From Queen's Gambit. She's in the new Mad Max movie. She's in a million things. She's like in that crew of the other four that we mentioned. She's a star.
Yeah. So, and she'll have a big role there, but I just figured I'd mention that part. Another thing is In the book, Jessica is more fearful of Paul's powers and the implications of everything that he does. In the movie, she supports a little bit more. So a small little bit of change, but she's a little bit different in the movie than I would have expected based on the book. This is kind of a big one that I think you'll be surprised about. But in the book, Paul has another wife. So in the first movie, Paul kills a guy by the name of Jameis, who's part of the Fremen camp, and that's just kind of how that movie ends. But in the book, when he returns to the Fremen camp, he actually automatically gets his wife. Her name is Hara, and she played a pretty big role in the book. So they don't even mention this in the movie that he basically like gets her as his wife. And,
So
and there's
like given to her, like no choice, like this is your wife kind of thing.
Yeah, and it's just kind of like the way it works because he killed him. She is now his wife, and there were some complications in the book with his relationship with Chani, but like she's very much a big character of the book that isn't even mentioned in the movie. And I get it. You know, you got to cut some things out. It was fine the way that it was done. So another small detail.
And then Chani falls in love with, and then they still fall in love together. Oh
yeah,
right?
Definitely. Yeah. And like Chani's like a side thing, and yeah, it's I think it's fine that they left it out, but that is very much a thing that doesn't. There's no mention of that made. So other thing is in the book, sandworms are actually, or I should say, water is poison for sandworms. So no real mention of that. There's no real reason to.
Did not know.
But
that.
I thought that was a little bit of a detail.
Well, in the movie though, real quick though, because in the movie, the adolescent, to get the water of life, she gets the sandworm from the adolescent sandworm and puts it in water. I thought it was just drowning it, but it definitely does not do good in water, obviously.
Yeah, for sure. No. So there's that. And then the last thing is in the book, Chani is accepting to Paul's proposal to Irulan. Like that, like she gets like how that makes sense to do that and is necessary to kind of move things forward. In the end of this movie, she was like totally surprised by that. And it ended with her kind of doing her own thing, and we'll see where it resolves. But like that is not how it was in the book either.
So talking about her real quick, because this is what I think, and this is like maybe a unique opinion. She's the good guy. You know what I mean? I feel like the direction that it's going is the movie. You gotta remember, the movie ends on her. The final shot of the entire movie is Chani looking pissed off, looking off in the desert, ready to ride a sandworm. And she is the only, I'm talking out of all the Fremen, that's the only thing that was weird. Out of all of the Fremen, they are believers into Paul Atreides. He is the one, they are going to follow him into the Holy War, and she is not. She is does not believer. She thinks it's a manipulation. She is going to be somehow the voice of reason or the good guy going into Dune 3.
Mm-hmm. Well, you got to remember, the prophecy is very much a thing that there was going to be someone like Paul Atreides, and basically hit every mark of that prophecy. So it is surprising that she feels the way she does about it, considering like the prophecy is such like a thing. But she definitely does not buy into it.
Does not buy into it, and she had a lot going into her. You know, at the end of the movie, Paul Atreides, after he defeats Fayed, ends up taking Florence Pugh's hand in marriage. Literally, I think I audibly gasped in the movie theater when he said he'll marry her, and quick cut shot to Zendaya being like, what the, what? Didn't see that coming or whatever. So she's definitely got a lot going on with it. But the fact that he decided to end on her and not Paul, I thought was telling for the future of it.
It'll be interesting to see what happens next. What is ultimately like your favorite part of the movie? And I'm asking you that trying to think in my head like what my favorite scene is, or do you have one?
I mean, the sandworm obviously sticks out biggest since we start into that, but I thought the I don't know what this says about me, but the scene when the Emperor and the Harkonnen were all in the ship and you could hear the war going on outside, and then Paul comes in with the Fremen, and Paul, you could just tell he's a completely different man. The way he's in complete control, goes right up, kills the Baron without hesitation, ends up talking to the Emperor, completely owning the situation. And that's when I was like, he is now on the dark side. And this is a completely different Paul Atreides. The Paul Atreides that we knew pre-Water of Life is dead. He is not there anymore. Or maybe he'll be brought back in the third one through love or through Chani or something. But this is a new guy. This is a new movie. And this guy does not mess around. He is freaking all in. with this stuff. So
Oddly, that was my favorite thing, and it's probably my favorite for a different reason. It for me, it's more like when I was reading the book, I had this vision of what that scene was going to look like, and I honestly thought that they like nailed it. I really did it because it is kind of a unique scene because like the emperor only plays a limited role in the movie, limited role in the book too. I mean, they show him probably more in the movie than you really see specific scenes with him in the book. Like they talk about the emperor, but like it's like all of a sudden in the book, like it's like he's on the planet, and then next thing you know, Paul Atreides like breaking in there, and then everything that happened afterwards. And I just had like this vision of what it looked like, and I thought they like executed well. I thought it was a really powerful scene, and I thought they stuck the landing on it.
That scene, and then the only other scene I'll mention, it's a scene just prior to this, but where I thought, okay, he's got it. He is the man to do this. Is a scene I mentioned earlier when he walks into the temple, I believe,
Mm-hmm.
and the religious rule in the temple is that you have to be a leader to speak. And
Mm-hmm.
quick 5-second detour on Javier Bardem and Stilgar, and him being the comedy of the movie and him being such a believer was just so funny with everything that Paul was doing. He's like, that's exactly what the prophecy would do. It's exactly what the one would do. But Paul completely saying like, screw your rules. I am the one. And him, again, being a great yeller and just taking command of that room and pointing at people and basically saying like deep secrets about them that no one would know, which just proves that he is the one.
Mm-hmm.
An awesome like David Blaine magic trick that he was pulling off in front of everybody. And this is again that time connected with the next scene where Chalamet is like, this guy is this guy is next level and the right choice for this character. Yeah. So yeah, man.
Couple things. Dune sequel pulled in $81.5 million Friday to Sunday last week. And then right now it's at $178 million. I heard the budget was $190 million. Then there's probably double that in marketing, but it's on track to like make some good money, which is nice. You'd want a movie like this that's actually very good to make some money back at the box office, man. They get it so they can keep making movies like this.
So this, my prediction, and I don't know what it would be, but I don't think there's going to be a big drop off this weekend. I think, if anything, this was one of those movies where when the embargo was lifted and people could start writing reviews and comments on it, and I was sending articles like 98% rating on Rotten Tomato, lights, camera, bar, stool, like 100% rating. Like it was getting such buzz that I think that will only build to it. That and the fact that I think Dune is streaming on Hulu, is streaming on.
It's on everything.
It's on everything right now. So that buzz, I think, will lead people to watch Dune 1 and then go see the movie this weekend. And then thirdly, this is a movie you see more than once. This is in the theater. So many people are going to go see this movie multiple times because of how it looked visually. So I think it's going to have a monster weekend again this weekend.
Same. Dude, it's rare for a movie to have this level of hype in terms of just like the reviews. I think I told you, at least as of last week, this was like the 8th highest rated movie ever on IMDb, which the highest was Shawshank at 9.3, and there was a Goodfellas at 9.2, and then there's a handful, one other one at 9.1, and then a handful at 9.0, and this is one of those ones that's at 9.0. So I mean, that tells you something, dude. There's obviously a lot of movies that have been made in history, so for it to have that high of a rating, I mean, it says something.
And yeah, and looking at the forecast of this year, what other big movie is, Deadpool and Wolverine, but like this important March.
Well, Deadpool versus Wolverine will be the biggest movie probably box office wise, but we'll see. Maybe it'll be freaking awesome. But Dune 2 was a very, very good movie, and I'll be interested to see how it fares during award season next year. Because it does have some of those like Return of the King vibes, meaning like movie that makes a ton of movie. In that case, a fantasy setting, not your typical Best Picture type winner. I could see Dune 2 being in that conversation next year.
Absolutely. And it's like one of those things where it'll win all the technical, it will win all the technical awards, guaranteed. It'll win all the technical awards. Will Denis Villeneuve be nominated for Best Director? Most certainly. Hopefully he wins. Could the Best Picture, it be nominated? It will get nominated because of the amount of money, and there's 10 movies. But like Return of the King and like Lord of the Rings series, I don't know if the acting awards will get, you know what I mean? Will Chalamet get Best Actor? Will, Zendaya get Best Supporting Actor or Lead Actor? I don't know, but it's interesting. It probably won't, but it will clean up in the technical stuff. So,
anything you want to add on the movie?
No, I'm excited. They, supposedly Denis Villeneuve is writing the script right now for Dune 3, but he has said he
Mhm.
wants to do at least one other non-Dune related movie in between. So when it might be 3-4
4 or
years till
5
we
years.
get Dune
Yeah.
3, you know?
Yeah.
So,
I'm just glad they're making it because it wasn't always a sure thing that they were even going to make Dune 2
oh,
after they made Dune 1. So, yeah, I think it's at this point it seems safe to say that they would do as many as they can. There's talk of there being a Benny Gesserit TV show
that's
on
it.
Max
It's
at
going to be
this
on
at this
Max this
point
fall. Yeah.
this year. I haven't heard much about it though. So like,
It
and Max is
takes
interested in
place.
the things that they decide to do and not to do, and where they
Mhm.
cut money and stuff. So like, I thought maybe for a second it was on the chopping block, but it does seem like it's going to happen. So that's exciting.
No, I think it's casted and ready to go, and I think they're expected to drop a trailer in June during House of the Dragon. But it's called Dune Prophecies or Prophecy,
Yeah.
and it takes place 10,000 years ago with the Bene Gesserit, which is going to be awesome. So yeah, build the
The Benny
universe, man.
Gesserit is a very fascinating aspect of the books and the films, and I think that's
Yeah,
if you were going to peel off an aspect to do a side story on, I think that's a great one.
I
So
I think they should just do a side story on whoever does the costume or wardrobe for the Bene Gesserit, because whoever does all that stuff must be working their tail off from
freaking
all the cloth and veils and stuff that they wear. So
pretty elaborate, no doubt about that. But besides that, there's I think 4 other books
yeah,
beyond Dune Messiah. I think there's 6 books total.
but
So
only
the
one
first
other.
movie was
What's his name? Right?
Frank Herbert.
Yeah.
Frank Herbert's the author's name. So yeah, that's true. And again, things definitely get weird beyond that. But you know how properties are. Like
Oh
if
yeah.
this is a hit, and I'm sure in their contracts, like it's probably all contracted for Timothy Chalamet and whoever's still in the books as it continues to be in the movie. So
Yep.
I don't know, man. As long as it's not too weird, which it does sound like it actually gets pretty weird, I'm down for it because I
Yep.
just thought this movie was awesome. I thought the last one was awesome. I'm all for Dune right now.
Awesome. Sweet. I'm glad we got a chance to finally talk about it.
Love it. So go see Dune. And if you're
Yes.
still listening to this podcast and you haven't seen it, it's probably just mom. But
Yeah.
hopefully
Exactly.
you enjoyed the movie.
Yeah. Exactly. Awesome. But we're glad we got a
You want to
chance.
just finish up with a couple things that you're watching real quick? We'll talk more about them next month. But like, give me
Uh,
like high level 3 things that you've been watching.
I'm hate watching Dynasty on Apple TV right now, and that'll be all done, all wrapped up. I swear to God, I feel like they're gonna be arresting Bill Belichick any minute now for having a hand in the murders that Aaron Hernandez did. It was just it's just frustrating. I mean, there obviously good moments are coming, and I'm excited for the
Yeah.
Deflategate stuff, but the Spygate stuff, the freaking Aaron Hernandez stuff was like, man, if you're not a Patriot fan, you must be like loving this because they really don't like shed good light on Belichick
I'm
specifically.
not I'm
So
not caught up, and we probably should talk more about it next month. But I'm not caught up yet. But yeah, that's the kind of vibe I hear from everybody. But I'll still watch it. I'm grinding through it.
definitely,
Watched a little more last night.
yeah. And then the other big one is Shogun on
Yeah,
FX. I've not started it yet because I've been on Dune mode. I know you've started it, but that'll be one I think that everyone's talking about and we'll be diving into. So
yeah. So definitely start watching Shogun on FX if you haven't. It's kind of like a Succession type Game of Thrones movie set in I think it's 17th century Japan. It's freaking awesome. Shot well. You'll recognize some actors in that. Awesome show. So definitely watch that. We'll probably dig more into that next month. Anything
yeah.
else?
No, that's the big two right now. There'll be other things, but that's the big ones right now. So
Yeah, I was shipping away at Drive to Survive, the F1 show on Netflix. Full Swing season 2 is out on Netflix now.
yep.
I don't know if did you ever watch season 1?
I watched a few episodes of season 1 and it was,
Yeah,
it was awesome. The access they
yeah.
got, the stories.
It definitely gets me fired up for golf. So I'll be checking that out soon. But that's about it. I got a few other things that I'm an episode or two into that hopefully in the next month I'll finish up and we can chat more on next month's episode of the Rehashables.
Awesome, buddy. Well,
So
thanks. Look forward to that. We'll see how have a good time watching the Oscars and Dune
go
2, man.
Oppenheimer.
Yep. Go
Yeah,
Oppenheimer.
and see Dune 2. So
All right, bud.
all right, pal. We'll talk soon.